I know that my house was illegally searched and seized 1 week ago today. I know that there's not a pig in my house, and I know that I'm not going to fall for the same stuff as you guys.
So what we have.
Welcome back to Rights Watch, where we take a look at the interactions between police and everyday people to figure out who's right, who's wrong, and whose side the law is actually on when it comes to asserting and knowing your rights. In this video, we're going to take a look at an interaction between police and a woman who is in her own home. The police are trying to follow up on a previous mental health interaction that they had with this lady, and they believe that they have previously found some evidence that may implicate her in a crime. Let's jump into it.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm okay. How about yourself?
I'm good. I'm here on a follow-up. I believe you spoke with Officer Janiga about a pig in your basement. Is that correct?
I have the police report. I don't see anything about a pig.
Yes, ma'am. So I believe the officers came here and they found a pig in the basement, and I'm here to make sure that it was removed from the property.
Okay, so at this point, this appears to be an animal control officer, not an actual police officer, although they do typically have some law enforcement capabilities depending on your jurisdiction. The reason that this officer appears to be following up with the woman who is recording is because there was a previous interaction. I believe it was for some sort of a red flag law, mental health interaction, where somebody had called and said that she was a danger to herself or others, and she had an interaction with the police inside of her home, at which point they claim that they found some evidence that she had a pig on the property, which in this part of Michigan does appear to be against the law unless you have a license. Now, it's important to keep in mind that this entire interaction happens over what appears to be something that would only result in about a $75 fine. But it's interesting to see that this animal control officer is coming up and simply saying, hey, we know that you have this thing. Let's take care of it.
Okay, well, there's no pig here, and there's nothing in the report that states anything about a pig, and nobody's coming in my home without a warrant again. You guys already tried doing that so I'm not allowing officers in my house or anybody else without a warrant.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, so at this point, this interaction should be over. The officer has asked to come see if there is a pig or still a pig on the premises, and the lady behind the camera has simply said, if you have a warrant, you can come in. If you don't have a warrant, have a nice day. At this point, the interaction should be over if this is a consensual interaction.
I'll be right back.
Okay. Call your dad. Or message him, let him know the cops are. You see this, Miss Carol? This time I got the videotape going. I don't understand it. I really don't. I'm sorry if it's frightening. Okay. I'm sorry for always having the drama. Well, not me technically having the drama. The cops being upset about Brianna, so therefore they're going to keep coming at me for it. What do you think? What do you think, my pups? You think they should just go bye-bye and be dismissed? It's my boy.
I'm assuming at this point she's talking to some other sort of animal that is not a pig, because otherwise the animal control officer would be able to see that there clearly still is a pig there.
I'm going to stay right here and protect you, huh? I've had better days. I know that my house was illegally searched and seized 1 week ago today. I know that there's not a pig in my house, and I know that I'm not going to fall for the same stuff as you guys.
So we have, video body camera of a pig.
Okay, so at this point, this officer is insinuating that they have body cam video, which should be pretty strong evidence that if having a pig in this jurisdiction is illegal, that they have enough probable cause at this point to enter the property and inspect for a pig if this truly is a crime in this jurisdiction. Although, as I mentioned previously, it appears that it is something that is more of a ticketable offense in the order of $75. At this point, though, they should have either had enough evidence to get a warrant, or they would be able to fall under one of the exceptions to having a warrant, such as exigent circumstances. For example, if they have reason to believe that the pig is currently being turned into bacon, they can enter the property without a warrant. The fact that they have this video and don't have a warrant or reasonable cause to enter the property to affect this ticket or arrest, if it's an arrestable offense in Dearborn, then that tells me that there's something else going on and that there may be some credence to what the lady behind the camera is saying, that they entered the house illegally or somehow otherwise obtained the evidence that she has a pig illegally. But we'll have to watch the rest of the video to find out.
Okay, again, that was also without a warrant coming into my house.
I'm just letting you know from where we're at right
Okay,
now.
but
So
that's
that way-
fruit of a poisonous tree.
Well, I'm just saying.
And I'm saying that there's no pig here now, and I'm telling you guys that I am not allowing you in my house.
So we can't check to see if
I am not allowing you in my
So you know
house.
now the next step's going to be you're going to be issued a ticket,
That's fine.
and then your CPS is also going to be contacted.
Okay, so I'm a little confused as to how having a pig would lead to them calling Child Protective Services unless the pig attacked one of her children or something like that. But it's a little odd to me here that this officer is essentially threatening to take her children away because she won't let them enter her property without a warrant. Again, if they truly have video of this pig, then it should be a fairly straightforward process for them to obtain a warrant and effectuate either the ticketing process or an arrest, whatever is the appropriate follow-up here. But the fact that this officer feels the need to threaten this lady by saying, we're definitely going to issue a ticket and we're going to call Child Protective Services is extremely over the line. And this is something that you'll see quite often when people give a little bit of pushback. You'll hear officers say, well, that's fine, but I'll just take you to jail then, in an attempt to intimidate you into getting their way. And to me, that's totally unacceptable. This interaction should have been over 3 minutes ago when she said, you're not allowed in my house without a warrant. And if this was me, the door would already be shut. But in her case, she continued to pursue this interaction. And at this point, she now has multiple officers standing on her front porch, in addition to the animal control officer.
CPS has already been contacted, so that's fine.
Oh yeah, it'll be contacted again.
Okay, that's fine.
And I mean that.
And what's your name and badge number,
My
sir?
name is Corporal Mattiocci, 526.
Okay, and what is yours?
Officer Masood, number 1218.
Okay, and you can also, if you want, you can bring Lieutenant Bazzi down here, who I've been discussing this whole case with.
Well,
That's who I'm requesting.
Okay, so at this point, this lady has essentially requested a supervisor, which, as we've discussed previously on this channel, is not an automatic way that you're going to get somebody higher up. It's not always required by departmental policy, and it's usually not required by law. However, in this case, it appears that she has been talking with a lieutenant who's clearly higher up than this officer, and someone who actually understands the situation. So although she's not entitled to it, they should at least try to communicate with this Lieutenant Bazzi to figure out what the real situation is here.
Requesting
Yeah,
him?
I am
You can call the
requesting.
station and speak to him.
Well, technically, it's my right as a citizen to ask for a higher up, which I'm
I'd give
asking
you a
for a
patrol-
lieutenant.
sergeant.
As I mentioned a minute ago, she does have the ability to request for somebody, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they have to get someone higher than this officer, who apparently is a sergeant.
Lieutenant Bazzi, who's already been on the case, and I know that he's working.
So you want to speak to him?
I would like to speak
Let
to
me
him.
call my boss, and it would go from him because I got to go with my chain of command. So, but you're 100% sure there's no pig inside your property?
So this is a fantastic question by this officer here. You're 100% sure that you're not breaking the law? Because I'm pretty sure that you are. It's a great tactic that you'll see quite often from different police officers, where they'll ask what sounds like an innocuous question, but really what they're looking for here is an admission from her that there's still a pig on the property.
There's no pig on my property.
All right. Then we gotta go. Okay. We'll let you know about the boss, okay?
Yep. So are you going to be staying here and then coming back, or can I go back and try to take my nap that I was working on because I have cancer and...
We'll probably be back, so I mean, if you want to wait a few minutes and then give me a couple minutes to call them, and then we'll go from there.
Okay.
All right?
Yep.
So yet again, at this point, she can terminate this interaction. She's not under any obligation to continue talking with them. They are walking away. She's well within her rights to go take her nap. Now, would they come back and knock on the door relentlessly and try to wake her up? Probably, but she's under no obligation to answer the door or deal with them in any way.
Hi. I've already spoke to Sergeant
Castick on the phone?
Yep.
Yeah, Sergeant Thompson, how are you?
Not great.
Okay, what's going on?
Your officers want to come into my home after you guys have already illegally searched my home, and they say that there's a pig here. I'm saying that there's not a pig here, and I'm not opening my door. And I've been in touch with Lieutenant Bazzi. We're working on everything, including the cams. And there's nothing in the body cams that you guys wear,
Okay.
just like I'm recording right at the moment
Right.
as well for my own, because you guys wouldn't let me have the phone on
Sure, I
May
can appreciate
5th.
that.
So that's actually a really interesting piece of information about the previous interaction. As I mentioned previously, supposedly they were there on some sort of a mental health call, something like that, and they did not allow her to record that interaction, which is a big violation of her constitutional rights. The only time that a police officer can ask you to not record an interaction or require you to not record an interaction is if there's some sort of an officer safety issue, in which case they can't stop you from recording, but they can ask you to move back or record from a different position. But realistically, if this last interaction took place in her own home, there is zero legal reason that I can think of. If anybody knows of any, let me know in the comments as to why she wouldn't be able to record that interaction. And if this allegation is true, this is potentially a massive lawsuit against the police department for depriving her of her First Amendment rights.
You're
So,
recording right now.
Yeah.
So you no longer have the pig here in your state?
Yet again, and you can tell that this officer is smiling under his mask because he likes this question almost as much as I do. Are you sure you don't have a pig? You just told us you don't have a pig. Are you sure that's the truth? Trying again to get her to admit that there either is a pig or was there previously on the property.
State that the pig is not here.
Okay. Can I ask where it may be?
Great follow-up question for this officer. Where is the pig now? Yet again, trying to get her to admit that there either was a pig here previously or is a pig here now.
Because of what happened, honestly, I'm going to use my right, my Fifth Amendment right, because you guys have made me, after what you guys did to me, like on the 5th, I've learned a lot about my constitutional rights, and I'm going to use it to remain silent.
Okay, I can appreciate that too.
Not meaning I'm guilty or I have anything to hide, just the fact that I don't feel like I need to answer that question. I'm telling you that there's no pig here, and I'm telling you that anything that was possibly seen would have been fruit of a poisonous tree anyway.
Okay, so this is an important concept to cover. It's the second time that the lady recording this has mentioned fruit of a poisonous tree, so it's time that we actually address this here right now. What is fruit of a poisonous tree? It's essentially the doctrine that extends the exclusionary rule of evidence that's inadmissible in a court, if it was found to have come from an illegal source. For example, if the police beat a confession out of you, that would not be usable in court. Same thing here. If a search of a car or a house or a person is illegal, that evidence that is gathered from that search is not usable. And where this comes from is a few different Supreme Court cases, but as I mentioned earlier, this is kind of an extension of the exclusionary rule. But the two most on-point cases that deal specifically with fruit of a poisonous tree are Silverthorne Lumber versus the United States, and the actual language comes from Nardone versus the United States. In this case, the lady claims that any body camera video would fall into this category because they previously in her home without her consent, meaning they didn't have a warrant. So therefore, anything that is found during the search of her property would be inadmissible. In this example, it would be any video footage or eyewitness accounts that they witnessed a pig on this property would not be admissible in court if it's found that the officers did not have a legal justifiable reason to enter her house with their body cameras activated to begin with.
But there is no
You've
pig.
been doing your research.
Yes, I have.
That's quite impressive.
Yes, I have. Most definitely. You guys quite inspired me while I was detained, and my guns were retrieved over somebody else calling and making a false report about me wanting to commit suicide.
Let me ask you this. Did these officers get your name?
Yeah, they works for me.
I'd
we
have
have
to
her name?
re-record.
Let's just do that. I'd rather do that than
Do we have a
get 'em back on
telephone
the
number
road.
for you?
Yep, all your sergeants do. I think I might have even talked
Not
to you.
sure who's
No,
on.
No,
never
there's
talked
a
to
gentleman
She
that
was
looks
wanted
like
out
you
there
in the
too, so-
office.
You're new to me, so.
So you're...
Is there anybody else that lives in the house?
Okay, so this is a little bit of a fishing expedition here by this officer to find out if there's anybody else he can talk to ask if they've had a pig. All they're trying to do is figure out a different way. And even though this sergeant is a very seemingly nice guy, all of these questions that they are asking are specifically designed to get her to admit that she has committed a crime so that they can write her the ticket, or find somebody else, her husband, one of her kids, that will give them the evidence that they need to effectuate the ticketing process or the arrest, whatever is the appropriate punishment, quote unquote, for having a pig.
Is it, do you have a significant other or children or grandparents?
Yes, I have. But I
All
have.
the above? Or
No, not all the above, but I have two.
2 children?
Well, I have 3 children and a husband.
Okay. All right.
I'm here by myself.
Okay.
My daughter is she definitely was walking
Am I
to work.
understanding that you wanted to see a supervisor out here?
Well, yeah, but after he was a little reluctant on it, and the fact that I've been in touch since Cinco de Mayo when my house was searched over, I mean, we're not gonna get into all
Sure,
that.
let's not. Let's deal
But
with
the
today.
point is that after that, I've been in touch with 5 or 6 of your sergeants.
Okay.
And me and Lieutenant Bazzi are working together. I even spoke with him this morning, and he is going through the body cams of that day.
Okay.
And we've already gone through the report, and we have already started to try to work on things. I also spoke with, I told you today, after I didn't feel like he was really going to get me anybody, I made sure that I called your police department, talked to the other sergeant, and he is going to put a note in and email Lieutenant Bazzi about this situation because of the incidents that have occurred, and I don't feel safe with you guys in my house. Last time several of the officers came in without their masks and gloves, and I have cancer, so that is a big risk to me, especially when it's a law by our governor. And
So that's another interesting point about their previous interaction. If she does have cancer, and it is a requirement of this department that anytime they're interacting either with the public in general or with somebody that's at a higher risk that they need to be wearing a mask, and they weren't, that is yet another potential issue with the initial interaction that they had that gave them any of the evidence that they have that there is a pig on this property.
and it's my 4th Amendment right not to have anybody come into my home.
Okay.
So
All right.
I'm telling you guys, there's no pig here. Just like I told you guys, I wasn't suicidal. This time I hope that you guys can learn to believe and appreciate your citizens as I appreciate you guys and the jobs that you guys do as your sergeants, other sergeants, and your lieutenant will tell you that I'm very respectful, and I do appreciate all the hard work that you guys do, and we support you guys 100%. But I also have a duty to stick up for my own amendment rights. He's basically my
I understand
special
that.
dog. He's just watching you guys. He's very friendly.
I
He wouldn't try
understand
to eat you
that.
guys.
I thank you for the support that you state you give us.
Oh, I definitely do.
And
And I appreciate the job that you guys
We'll
do.
document this meeting here, just like we would any other, and we'll go from there. But
That's fine. I don't appreciate being threatened with CPS.
okay.
Because CPS is already involved.
Okay.
So really don't appreciate the whole CPS, I'm going to call CPS on you kind of thing, because I am not a negligent mother. I'm not doing anything wrong. So that's your guys' prerogative, and that's something that I'll have to deal with, but I will tell the lady the same thing as I did last time. I'll show her everything on the cam through the Zoom or the Facebook or whatever she wants to do it with, like she did before.
Okay.
But nobody's entering my home anymore.
Okay. Without a warrant.
Without a warrant,
Just
or
like you know, 'cause I know you know the law.
or a probable cause of a crime being committed.
All right.
No, trust me, because I don't want to sound stupid when I talk to you guys, and I also don't want to disobey the law and commit a crime myself.
Well, we
So
appreciate that.
I'm trying, not just for my own sake, but for your guys's and my children as well, because one of my
So we can see at this point the interaction is over. The only thing that we're going to see here at the end of this video is the officers leaving. They're having their little conference right now. But essentially the only thing that happened here, because this lady stood up for her rights, is she had this prolonged interaction. And although I don't necessarily agree in keeping the conversation going for, according to the video, a little over 12 minutes after initially saying, hey, if you have a warrant, you can come in. If not, have a nice day, and shutting the door, you can see some of the tricks that happens when you are involved in a police interaction. And it's not that they're doing this out of malice. They're just trying to do their job by asking you these questions. The thing you have to keep in mind is every question from a law enforcement officer is specifically designed to help them achieve their goals. That's one of the reasons that part of the Miranda warning is anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. Everything you say with a police officer is potentially used against you. And you can see a few great examples. Is there anyone else living here? Are you sure you're not committing a crime? We definitely have video of it. Are you sure that it's not here? Oh, it's not here anymore? Where is it now? All of those questions that the different officers were asking of this lady were designed to get her to admit that she is committing a crime. Although the first officer was not nearly as friendly, and it was a little bit more obvious when he was doing it, the sergeant that came on the scene was doing it in a jovial way. And if you continue an interaction like this with a police officer like that, who's trying to be your friend, quote unquote, chances are that you will eventually slip up. And so my suggestion would be, if you are having an interaction like this, if you decide to not allow them to enter your house, which you should not unless they have a warrant or probable cause to enter the property under one of the warrant exceptions, then when you come to that point of the interaction where you say, I'm not letting you into my house without a warrant, shut the door and end the interaction. If you thought this interaction was a bit over the top for a pig, having 3 or 4 different police officers and animal control come to the house after the first time, then you may want to check out this video where police arrest a First Amendment auditor for recording while the auditor is trying to show them the law, which allows him to do exactly that.